happy March 13th, everyone. Written as 313, depending on your continent. Hey, speaking of 313, I need to talk about one of the most legendary goats in all of video games. I promise this is a video about Kirby, don't click off. The 313 Archer from Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. This random one-chapter NPC is a legend for so many reasons that I don't have the time to talk about in a Kirby video, but unlike every other NPC in this game, who will typically die in around 2 or 3 rounds of combat, this one rushes headfirst into battle and almost always comes out on top every time. An absolute legend, worthy of the name 313 Archer. I knew that I had to celebrate him somehow. So let's talk about Archer, Kirby! Yeah! Archer, or as they're known in Japanese, Sniper, which is what Fire Emblem Archers promote into I am a genius, isn't the flashiest ability in the series. When speedrunning the various Kirby games, and by that I mean the 2 main series games that Archer is actually in, it's only used for getting collectibles you have to use it for in 100%. Aside from that, you won't see this hitman sniping the opposition very much. Get it? Because Hitman is a move that's in Archer's moveset. Like and subscribe to the channel for more top tier humor. But where Archer really shines in both games is against the bosses. More specifically, Archer's arena and true arena runs are not only really fast, but they're also very easy, excellent for people looking to get their feet wet with speedrunning. And while this certainly is true for Planet Robobot as well, it's Triple Deluxe where Archer especially shines. So join me, one and all, as we document what precisely makes Archer such a sharpshooter for bosses. You get it? Because sharpshooter is a move in Archer's kit. Oh, by the way, I have a Patreon linked in the description. Consider becoming a pup train if you can for neat perks, including early access to videos like this one. Special thanks to my head-patting Fluffle fan pup trains of Biohazard, Tyke Vilafar, the Serval that likes strawberry Pop-Tarts, Lydia Scribe, and remember, Miss K says, please, you have to help me. They're onto me. I'm being hunted. Kirby is going to consume me and turn me I love you all. Alrighty, what is it that makes Archer so good? And not just good, so appealing for newcomers. It's simple. For 99% of the run, super optimal or not, you're gonna be using one move. That move is Archer's long charge attack, Magic Star Arrow. Get it? Oh wait, that's actually not a pun this time. When you tap the B button with Archer, Kirby fires off a quick little arrow. This is fine, doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's fast and something. If you hold the button down for a little bit, Kirby shoots out a slightly stronger arrow. The move is called Snipe Shot, which doesn't mean much in isolation, but now I'm thinking about how Return Deluxe cucked Scope Shot. Thanks for unburying past trauma, Triple Deluxe. And finally, if you hold the button down for a while, you get Magic Star Arrow. This fully charged shot, which I will be calling Magic Star Arrow, so I sound smarter than I actually am, is insanely strong. For context, Hammer Flip, the single strongest attack in the entire game, deals 80 damage. That is a lot. And Magic Star Arrow, in comparison, only deals 32. So what gives? Well, think about it like this. For Hammer Flip to work, you need to not only be very close to a boss due to Hammer's nature as a CQC ability. CQC, huh? Even Puppy knows about Metal Gear, huh? You also have to get around its very long startup. If you aren't prepared, it will miss, leaving Kirby wide open and costing you an insane amount of time, and maybe even some HP. Remember, we're speedrunning here, so not only is this a high-risk move, it's one that you have to have planned out in advance. The reward, of course, is more worth it than you could ever imagine, but it's hardly what I'd call simple, beginner-friendly. Magic Star Arrow, on the other hand, it doesn't take nearly as long and can be aimed up or down depending on where your target is. And not only that, but this sucker hits from full screen, making it one of the safest moves in the whole game. On top of that, as you can see from the footage, this isn't a teeny tiny little arrow. I don't quite see any stars in Magic Star Arrow. I guess there's a star in the actual bow itself, but give me this one, please. There is definitely some kind of magic going on here because the size of this tiny arrow is huge. That's it? This is what you do for essentially the entire run. Hang back, get the timing and rhythm down for charging and shooting your arrows, and have fun. Of course, as simple as it sounds, getting the actual execution down takes some work. Kirby bosses have these funky little things called attack patterns, and while they're very consistent, we have Return to Dreamland to thank for that one. If I were to talk about Amazing Mirror RNG for 5 seconds, I would explode. You still need to be careful, as mistakes can be costly. And I'm not saying you gotta be careful like some kind of elitist where I yell at you angrily for not releasing your charge 3 microseconds earlier, which is going to result in a time loss that will cost you a record by 0.43 seconds. Where was I going with that? What I'm talking about is the actual big time losses. For example, take Mr. Frosty in one of the mini-boss rushes. When he spawns, you can start wailing on him with your Magic Star arrows, but if you do it too quickly, then he'll start spinning and winning and going into the background where you can't hurt him. He can spin into the foreground and hurt you though, so be careful. You can still knock him out reasonably quickly this way, but if you wait a little bit for Frosty to go woo and then toss the ice cube, you can skip that entirely and just save some really good time. Waiting to go fast does sound kind of weird, I know, but very rarely is just spamming the move over and over super optimal. It works for something like Flowery Woods, I guess, but that's a wispy clone. You don't want to be hanging around with one of those, do you? For most bosses, part of the fun is the discovery of it all. Planning in your head, how many shots is this going to take? What happens if I hit them this many or that many times? Then actually picking up your 3DS, and not your Nintendo PC because we can't have nice things, and putting your ideas to the test. Seeing what works, what doesn't, and planning around both is an absolute thrill. And sure, you'd do that even if you weren't using Archer. For example, as vocal as I am on how I feel about Sword, all of these same ideas would also apply to it. What's so different about Archer is that not only does it have one of the best ability hats ever, so actually looking at it never gets old, but there's also an actual reason, shock and awe! Because it's so easy to use and so simple to understand, and generally speaking get right, nothing really gets in the way of planning an optimal route. Sword, for example, has tons of moves it can use, and is generally speaking very weak. If you want to plan for a Sword, you need lots of experience and a very high execution needed to pull everything off. Then you start planning, but even then, due to how much Sword's got going on, it just all kind of becomes a jarbled mess. And I know, like I said, Sword isn't very good, and well, I also said Archer is, but this same idea applies to the good abilities too. Parasol is my darling baby child, and I will love it forever, but even I have to admit, the strats for making it work in TDX are not what I'd call easy. They're very hard. And then you gotta get the planning, and the routing, the execution, consistency down. It's a lot. But Archer, you go, oh, what's that? Oh, what's the button? This is that B button. Oh, this is a B button. That's a good button. It's a good button that you press and you hold down. Oh, yeah, good button. Good button. This speedrunning stuff really starts to get to your head after a while. Of course, Archer's not without its flaws either. And notably, while the 32 damage dealt by Magic Star Arrow is very good given the speed, it's not setting any records. It isn't as rapid fire as what, say, Parasol can do, it's not as strong as what Hammer can pull off, it isn't as versatile as Ninja, the works. What it has in easiness and simplicity, it loses in total insanity. Not to mention, while I usually talk about the True Arena specifically, anything that functionally works in said True Arena would also work for the regular arena as well, since it's the True Arena, but easier. This is why you're seeing footage for the regular arena. I did have to record this. I did have to, quote-unquote, learn this, I guess. I just figured doing this would be easier, but this is similar to the strats that they pull off in the True Arena. It's been a while since I made this one, but years back I published a video ranking the Triple Deluxe abilities for the arena modes, and I ranked it at 7. We actually have resources that tell us how quickly abilities can clear the True Arena, and that is strictly what I went by. Optimal time, nothing about being approachable, or simple, or being a pup train. Please remember to become a pup train if you can afford it, thanks, I love you! And while 7th is insanely impressive, the stuff above it just has better moves to deal with the bosses. Simple as. At the end of the day, Archer isn't setting the world on fire or anything. It's good, kinda great actually, but nothing amazing. And that's fine, because not only is it better than most of the other abilities in the game for beating bosses, but it's also easy and accessible. I've mentioned in previous videos that Archer is a great ability to learn the arena modes with, and even though it hasn't been in a Kirby game that actually has an arena mode in almost 10 years, hope you're ready for when Planet Robobot turns 10 soon, that doesn't change how much fun it is. Speaking of fun, I've got more videos to work on, so I'm gonna get to those. I have been Claire, thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you around. Bye-bye!